Jesus has a conversation with Moses and Elijah on the mountaintop, what we call Transfiguration Sunday. We read this text from the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 17. And it's a reminder, we read this in the progression of the year on the Sunday before Lent begins. So we're getting ready for that journey to Jerusalem and the cross. But today, not only are we reminded of the time when Jesus himself was transfigured before the gathered witnesses, and he shone with a light, not even so much the reflected light that Moses received on the mountaintop, receiving the law from God, but lit from within. And Peter misunderstands and tries to build a monument. And Jesus reminds him that they were on a mission, that the mission involved going back down into the valley and completing not only the mission and the ministry, but the destiny of Jesus' life. Here's the scripture, Matthew 17. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became bright as light. And suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking to him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it's good for us to be here. If you wish, I will set up 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." While Peter was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my Son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they raised their eyes, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. And as they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." Jesus was transfigured before them, filled and glowing with light. And in the midst of that conversation that ensued with Moses and Elijah, even as Peter misunderstood, the message, the voice of God from the heavens declares, "This is my Son, listen to him." And so on the one hand, we see how he is in the consistent order of God working in, around, and through God's people, with Moses providing the law, with Elijah who represents all the prophets. And yet Jesus is special, perhaps superior, as we understand that, and the instruction from God in preparation for the rest of the ministry that is in front of Jesus. My Son, the beloved, listen to him. A reaffirmation of the voice that came at Jesus' baptism not so long ago, maybe a couple of years prior. And now what about us? In what ways and in what places do we find ourselves changed and different than we used to be? This banner behind me represents the ministry of Lakeside Conference at Camp Christian through years and years and years, but we can imagine, we can think of, maybe we have specific experiences or people that come to mind when we think about First Christian Church's connection to Lakeside Conference and to the entire camping program at Camp Christian through the years. But part of the challenge in all of our ministries, whether it's camp or Wednesday night youth or Sunday morning worship or Bible study or Sunday school or any place that we discover and have an experience of the presence of God in our lives, the challenge is always what happens after that. For those moments of transfiguration, transformation for us, are not meant to become monuments or museums to a past glorious experience. Because if that's all it is, then it was pointless to have. But all of those transformative experiences we have in whatever form they take, are designed to make us different and to give us empowerment and equipping and courage and the ability to live out the destiny God has in mind and in store for us. And so, when and how have you been changed by the Spirit of God? When have you had that moment, that experience, that time of the transforming presence of God? And then what is God doing in, around, and through your life now that you've come down off the mountaintop? And if you haven't embraced that or discovered it or know it yet, there's work for us there too. Let us discern prayerfully what was the meaning and purpose of our experience, and let's embrace and move forward into the mission that God has in mind for us. For we are indeed a people on a mission, a movement of God. We are not museum pieces. We have life to live, faith to journey, and love of God, and we are called to share that with one another and the world. How have you been changed, and what are you doing about it? God bless.